This podcast of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour presented by Firehouse Subs is sponsored by AAA Heating and Air.
The premier HVAC company in the Midlands is growing. Are you a top HVAC technician?
AAA Heating and Air is looking for dedicated applicants to fill their fast-growing service department with top-notch HVAC technicians.
If you're the best, then they want you. If you're ready to stop working and start a career, you can earn up to $100,000 plus a year at AAA Heating and Air.
Quality candidates will have at least 2 years experience and a good driving record. Benefits include top industry salaries, commission on service and unit sales, set call limits, company-provided take-home vehicle and gas card, company-provided cell phone and tablet, health, dental, and vision benefits, 401k retirement plan with company match, and scaled PTO based on length of service.
Contact Roy and Dana Finley at 803-677-1500 or check out their job postings on Facebook or ZipRecruiter.
AAA Air when you need us. AAA Heating and Air.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, presented by Firehouse Subs, founded by firemen with Chris Clark.
The 2007 South Carolina class was, at that time, 6th in the country and 4th in the SEC, which is amazing.
Wes Mitchell.
You know, I think if you're South Carolina, you're aiming to at least be at 50%. Then in theory, you're adding talent, you're getting better, you're putting yourself in a position to compete.
And Tyler Head.
It's been a great week for South Carolina. On the recruiting front, still certainly plenty to talk about.
On the home of the Gamecocks, 107.5 The Game.
Kendra was in the station truck.
Yeah, I'm in the station truck.
Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, live from Steel Hands. Terry Ford, Chris West, Kendra, Josh. Folks all over the place here getting ready for the big Gamecock Central football kickoff party tomorrow. It's going to be a good time, whether if you're buying VIP passes or you just want to come hang and chill. Wes and Chris will give you more information about that as we roll through this hour. All right, guys, so now that we get back to the football conversation, the actual on-field football conversation. So far, as we hear injuries are injuries, right? I mean, you hear, I love the lower body, upper body hockey terms they use now. It's quite cute. But, okay, so we have Juice Wells, obviously, with his lower body injury, and we're hoping he comes back for the opener. Let's look at the wide receiver room real quick. If Juice Wells can't play in the opener, now you have Xavier Leggett, you've got Eddie Lewis, you've got Amarian Brown, you've got some newcomers from the last 2 years. Let's take Juice out of the equation real quick, and we'll start with is Xavier Leggett ready? Is he ready to step up and get more consistent? Because every now and then you see him make a play and you go, why can't that guy do that more consistently? Is this the year? How you feel about it?
I think so, and I think, when you look at receiver and right now with Juice Wells not at practice, I think there's kind of two answers to the question. And it's like, all right, who steps up in terms of they're replacing Juice Wells in terms of literally catching the football and being the top target and being the guy that maybe Rattler clings to. I think the other side of that is who is literally taking his spot on the field. And I tell you, maybe a guy, Chris, it's time for us to start talking about a little bit more would be Omega Blake, who I think has had a solid camp. He was a little bit, I don't even say a little bit, he's been overshadowed by the newcomers who have arrived and, the Nick Harbor talk, and then, there was the Elijah Caldwell buzz we were hearing during kind of the summer ball time. And so, you look at it, and it's kind of like, all right, Omega was a guy we were like, all right, this starts to be the point in his career. He's been on campus 2 or 3 years. You start to find out, all right, is he going to be able to be the guy that steps into a role, or does he kind of just get, frankly, passed by younger players? And I think credit to Omega, he has kind of stepped up. And early on, Peyton Mangrum was kind of holding down that spot. It seems like Omega Blake has gotten more and more reps, at least when we've been out there with the ones. There was that social media video of him making a play in the scrimmage. I've heard that wasn't the only play he made. Like, he's been kind of coming along and putting himself in a position to help this team. So, to me, that's a new storyline. I don't want to create unrealistic expectations, but that's a guy who is making a push, Chris, once Juice Wells gets back even, to at least be in that top 6. We talk about who's in the top 6 rotation. It sounds like Omega Blake is making a strong case to at least be on that backup line along with probably Eddie Lewis. And then you really only have that. You're kind of almost filling 5 of your 6 spots, assuming everyone is healthy.
Yeah, so last season, remember, we came into the year and you had a good sense of who the top 6 guys were, but we ended up having less of a sense of, okay, who are the starters, right? Even Juice Wells was an oar on the depth chart.
Yeah, we forget that, don't we? Yeah.
Right. Were there 3 oars or 2 oars? I think all of them were oars, because I remember, Jalen Brooks, we didn't know if he would be a starter, especially because of the year that Josh Vann had. He was. Then you had DeCarrion Joyner in the mix. So now you've got 3 guys that were in that top 6. You got 3 of them back: Marion Brown, Xavier Legette, Juice Wells. 3 of them are gone: Josh Vann, Jalen Brooks to the NFL, and then DeCarrion Joyner is now playing another position for you. So that makes you feel better about your starters, and not necessarily bad about your next guys, your rotation guys, but it was kind of thrown more into question because now you're counting on some players that are new players, like Eddie Lewis, even though he's got a lot of experience, he's new to the team, or some guys that are more limited on experience, like an Omega Blake. I tend to think right now, if I'm kind of handicapping, I think we are a little bit closer to figuring out who are the next 3 guys. I think Blake's one. I think Eddie Lewis is one. And I'll probably go Peyton Mangrum on the next spot. Former walk-on, played a lot of special teams, has played some snaps at receiver, kind of basing it off our limited viewing windows in the preseason. They've rolled a bunch of different guys in there with the 2s, but Mangrum's been in there a good bit.
Here's one thing, just thinking about receiver issues like those. Let's say, Wells misses a game or 2 or whatever. Let's just go that scenario. A lot of times you've seen this, and you've seen on the pro level, you lose a high-level guy. Sometimes it helps the quarterback because he's just progression, you're open, boom. He's not looking for a guy. You're looking for Juice Wells, right? Look, all SEC receiver. If you're Spencer Rattler, you're looking for your guy. But if your guy's not there, now you're just going through progressions. You're going, okay, ready? Progression 1, not open. Progression 2, open, boom. So sometimes in the short term, it can help you because as a quarterback, you're just going to the first open dude and letting it loose. So again, obviously you want Juice Wells for the season. He's a special player. But if you got to, in the short term, look at it where we're spreading the wealth. Sometimes spreading the wealth isn't a bad thing in short doses.
And I think you kind of, much like we've talked about with the offensive line of, hey, what are my best 5? Then what are my best 6? Who's my 7th guy? I think you kind of look at that spot too. What puts your best playmakers on the field? If everybody's healthy, then I think right now, and you're going 3 wide receivers, you definitely are saying that's Legette, that's Amarian Brown, that's Juice Wells. If, for whatever reason, you're missing one of those top 3 receivers, I think that's when you start to look at 2 tight ends being on the field because, we have talked a ton, really all offseason, about Josh Simon and how this is a guy fans need to know. This is a guy fans need to sort of start to know this name, start to remember this name. We know about Trey Knox. He's the SEC transfer, former 4-star guy. Josh Simon going to play, I would say, nearly as big of a role within this team. So I would imagine if you're South Carolina, you're looking at what gets my best 11 out there, putting 2 tight ends out there and getting those 2 threats out there probably will be a big part of what they do. And then, like you said, you've got kind of these 4 weapons out there, and you're just saying, all right, Spencer, read the defense and roll with who's open, as opposed to feeling like, all right, let's get the ball to 3. I'm not going to sit there and say, you're better off without your stud, because I don't think you are in any way.
Right.
But are there reasons to think the offense could still just keep churning? Yeah, I think so. And we tell y'all what, I keep hearing reports the offense has been really, really good in practice, and that's without Juice Wells being out there. So I think that's a good sign for these guys, and obviously I think this offense is going to be kind of what we thought it was going to be this time last year when we were going, hey, you got this guy named Spencer Rattler. You didn't bring him in here to hand the football off. And then as the year progressed, there was a stretch where they just said, hey, we got to just hand the football off to Marshawn Lloyd.
Wasn't that weird? Remember the beginning of it was just like that, and all of a sudden everyone's saying, no, just give the ball to Lloyd.
Yeah,
wait, what are we doing?
Yeah.
What are we doing here?
But we were all clamoring to get the ball to Lloyd too.
Right.
Like remember, everybody would say you got to run the ball. You got to run the ball. I think you got to throw the ball, put the ball in Seven's hands, and let the chips fall.
To me, you throw it to set up your run game. And that's the way I feel with this team. And the other thing too, last year was so funny because it started off Rattler, right? Rattler. Then remember, he had some inconsistencies, and the offense was just so clunky. And it was like, second thought, just give the ball to Lloyd because that's your best playmaker right now. Then when Lloyd gets hurt, and then you have the big game against Tennessee and the big game against Clemson, now it's back to this is Rattler's offense. It was so weird last year with that roller coaster.
Well, all year long, I felt like we were going, what is this offense? The word identity got overused over and over, but for a good reason because we're all going, what is the identity of this offense? And the identity of this offense was that they were going to be something different every week. Mm-hmm. And Chris, that was something we heard. That wasn't just a fan or radio made up thing. Like that's what other teams were looking at South Carolina going, What are they?
I heard pretty early in the season, I got some information that had come via another coach on South Carolina's schedule that had watched their film, and it said grab bag. Mm-hmm. You know, when you asked about their offense, and to your point, Wes, sometimes things like that get said, and it's just kind of thrown out there. It's overblown. There's no context. It was really the case, right? I mean, it really was kind of a grab bag last season until late in the year, narrowed things down, and played to what your strengths were at that particular point in the season. So coming into this year to play that forward, what are the strengths this year?
Right.
Is 7, and it's the receivers and the tight ends. You
know what's interesting is, in a way, that loss at Florida, because sometimes the good comes out of the bad, right? Mm-hmm. That loss at Florida, where to be fair, both sides of the ball got worked. But the offense against that Florida defense was not good. Well, let's make no mistake. And to struggle against that defense in the manner you did, and then, all of a sudden that felt like the tipping point of, okay, give me the Denny's menu. All right, we're scratching out a lot of ingredients here. We got to do what we do best, and that is think less and let's play. We got a dude with an NFL arm. Let's let him play. We've got receivers. We got guys here who are going to play in the league too. Let's just let them go play. Let's just stop the clapping at the line of scrimmage and look at the side to see what we're going to. Stop all of it. Let's just play football. Let's get some tempo and get some rhythm, and let's go. So it feels like, as painful as that 3.5 hours of watching that mess in Gainesville, it almost felt like what we're going to see this year kind of started to grow coming out of that loss, when we're saying, look, we got what do we do right on offense? Then we saw Tennessee, we saw Clemson, and that's the offense in a way that Shane Beamer was talking with Dow Loggins about, right?
Well, if you got a guy like Juice Wells, trust him to go make plays. And I thought the offense against Tennessee was incredibly aggressive as well. And it was, hey, we know we're going to have to go for it on 4th down. We know we're going to have to stay on the field. You go into that game. Now, they didn't end up needing to score 60 points, even though they scored 60-plus. You have to go into that game saying, I got to attack this like I got to score 48 points. And that's what they did. Very first drive. I mean, how different is that game if they don't convert on that first 4th down?
Right.
They convert, they go down, stadium goes nuts. Tennessee goes, instantly right back down the field, scores, and you're like, okay, there's the answer. There's the counterpunch. And then what does Carolina do? They go right back down the field themselves. So I thought, great game plan for Carolina all the way around, just knowing, hey, we're going to have to take chances to win this game. But in turn, that also unlocked some missing pieces of this offense. It was, our guys in one-on-one situations are actually really good and better. They're better than Tennessee's defensive backs. And so then you kind of attack the rest of the year with that same mindset. And I think that's where you're going to need, I think a guy like Xavier Legette, you're going to need him to be that guy we're talking about, because as much as they weren't talked about as NFL guys at the time, Jalen Brooks is putting on a show in Cowboys camp right now. Josh Vann is hanging in there in Panthers camp. Mm-hmm. And, so there was a reason that all those receivers were listed as is that they maybe were all a little bit more talented than we gave them credit for at the time. So to me, yeah, we know what Juice is, but they're going to need Legette and AB to kind of have the year that I think we expect them to, that I think they will but you're going to need them to go make one-on-one plays if this offense is going to be what we saw it be the end of last year.
So there's another scrimmage I hear coming up soon, right?
Yep.
I heard. Let's talk about that. Got to get a little, pick you guys' brain for what we might be seeing coming up in the next scrimmage this weekend. Gamecock Central, the kickoff party is tomorrow as well from Steel Hands. We'll get into that conversation with Wes and Chris, let you know what's going to be happening tomorrow. We are live from Steel Hands all day long. Right now we're doing the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
All right, guys, we've been telling you about it really for the last month or so, but Chris brags about it every single day. It is the pepperoni pizza meatball sub at Firehouse Subs. This thing has crispy pepperoni. It has garlic bread. It has extra cheese, double the cheese, which is, I think, an excellent addition. And because of this new limited-time sandwich, you can actually get the garlic bread with any of your subs at Firehouse Subs. The best way to do it is to go to FirehouseSubs.com or to download the Firehouse Subs app. Hit that Rapid Rescue. Get your lunch right now, and if you order it in the app, you can get the pepperoni pizza meatball sub for just $6. As always, shout out to our friend Larry, and shout out to Firehouse Subs for being our presenting sponsor here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour.
All right, we'll come back, preview the upcoming Gamecock scrimmage next on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, live from Steel Hands on 107.5 The Game.
You want to buy a car or a house, travel, retire? But it's getting harder to figure out what's the best way to spend and invest. Afford Anything is a podcast that teaches you how to be smart with your money.
Take the amount of money that you would make on that car payment, make that payment to yourself. That way, if you have to make a major repair, it can come out of that. And when you do go to buy your next car, who knows, maybe all 5 years worth of car payments have accumulated over that time.
Afford Anything, wherever you listen. In moments of stress, it can feel like there's nowhere to turn. The good news is you're not alone, and there are resources to help support you. Health Break, a podcast by UPMC Health Plan, explores this topic with one of our employee assistance program managers, who provides 3 tips for finding comfort and accessing support in moments of stress. Listen now to learn how you can start managing your stress at upmchp.us/healthbreakstress. That's upmchp.us/healthbreakstress.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
I might text him back, but did you get the Rapids number?
Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game. Terry Ford hanging out for Tyler today. Wes and Chris are here as we broadcast live from Steel Hands. We'll be here all day up until 6 p.m. The big Gamecock Central football kickoff party is tomorrow. We've been talking about that through the show. Tons of great live music. And a think tank of Gamecock Central minds will be on stage. It will be Chris, and Wes, and Mike Uva, and Colin, and it'll be a good time. You can talk with them. Now, they can talk with you, right? The fans can come while you're doing the round table. They can ask you questions, right?
If that's something that somebody would like to do,
they can come up on stage and just hang out. Is that no?
I don't know about the stage
come
part.
on stage,
but definitely come up and talk to us.
They come talk to you.
We love mingling with.
Now,
people,
I mean, Uva is such a celebrity. I mean, is there going to be a bodyguard?
There might have a whole team.
Or are you guys bodyguarding? I mean, I know Wes hits the gym every day. You going to bodyguard for Uva?
I mean, you were the one who were, what do you say, you were deadlifting 500 pounds last night? So
let me tell you what,
maybe we've hired
if I added up all the weight I've lifted in my life, it probably wouldn't add to 500 pounds. Probably. I was watching a dude cleaning like 450 the other day, and of course when he drops it shakes the whole gym floor, because when you clean or lift that much, you're not setting it down really nice for 2 reasons. One, it's a lot of weight, and 2, you want the entire world to know what the hell you just did, right? So you slam that thing so everybody looks up and goes, oh wow, dude, that was a lot of weight.
Yeah. Let's just say it was Josh Yeoman that did it.
Look at him. Are you surprised? I can see Dreamy Josh in there doing some deadlifting over 4 bills.
Oh yeah,
no doubt about it.
He's not listening to us.
He's not paying attention.
What were we talking about before
Where
we
going?
Yeah.
Talking about
I had a question. The scrimmage.
The scrimmage.
That's what it was. So I'll start with you, Chris. Deep thoughts on the upcoming scrimmage. Maybe things you're hoping to hear about. Things that you're interested in. maybe getting more information about where this team is at right now at this point in the progress?
The biggest takeaway from me, and there's some obvious things there, right? Like, how well does the offense move the ball? Does defense make any plays? What do the turnovers look like? But I think the biggest thing I'll be looking at in terms of, I won't be looking at it actually, it's not open to us.
Not allowed, exactly.
But from the biggest thing I'll be looking to hear and kind of learn based on what we hear is just some of these position battles, right? So one of them is receiver rotation. You know, when they come out of this second scrimmage, this is a key point for this team because after this scrimmage, there'll have been 2 scrimmages, and it's kind of that point in camp where you're looking to turn the page, have a better sense of your entire team and what you have, and then go start preparing for North Carolina. So they're kind of at that point now. And so the second scrimmage is critical for some of those battles. So one is the receiver rotation. I think another one is the offensive line. That's an area that we've talked about a lot lately. What does the top 5 look like going into Saturday and leaving Saturday? What's the top 8 look like? I think there's a few other battles in there too, like linebacker. You know, how do you feel about that rotation? Do you feel like you've got your 2 starters coming out of it? Defensive end, another one. JT Gear, Tyreek Johnson at one of the spots opposite Jordan Strong. So I think for me, just position battles, narrowing down those rotations and even some starters.
Yeah, I mean, this is when you start to kind of have to make your move. If you're on the second team, you're trying to push into a starter's role, you got to make your move. If frankly, if you are kind of on is this guy a red shirt or is this guy in the rotation? Is this guy special teams only right now or is he on the offensive or defensive rotation? This is when you got to make your move because ultimately the coaches, they kind of have to pare down the list of guys that are stealing reps in practice. So early in camp, it may be, hey, we're just getting everybody in there. Let's see who can go make a play. As it progresses, it gets more and more cut down. Who's going to be on scout team? Who's going to be on the actual offense? Because eventually, pretty soon, it's going to be you're preparing for North Carolina. So that's your offense against a simulated defensive style scheme players from what North Carolina should be running. So I think this is the next 4 or 5 days is a movement time. It is a time when you gotta kind of step in and make your play if you are a guy. And a lot of these guys probably, frankly, already have spots wrapped up. Mm-hmm. Coaches have them penciled in, but at the same time, you kind of have to. You can't let up now. You know, like this is a big scrimmage, and from a big picture standpoint, got to start to cut down on those penalties. That was something that Shane Beamer talked about last week. Far too many penalties, so I'm sure they're going to want to clean it up. They're going to want a good, well-played scrimmage on both sides, even though you know there are going to be, a few mistakes here and there.
It's funny, and you hit it on the head, Wes, with me, and it's not sexy, but the offensive line is so vital to this football team. And on the defensive side of the ball is consistently stopping the run, which has been a problem. So those are 2 things for me I want to, and again, there's always so much you can glean from either of that in camp, which is why Shane Beamer, which I agree with, I'd love to have a preseason game against someone besides us. But, the other part of this is, especially focused back on the offense, we really don't know what this offense is. Mm-hmm. And so many times, and look, yes, in college football and the NFL and everywhere, a lot of it is, okay, you're better than that guy, and I can just beat you. But also there's the aspect of you want an offensive coordinator who can do 2 things. A, scheme you open or scheme you in space to make plays or scheme you to be able to make a play. And 2, a guy that can call plays that run something in the first quarter that sets up a big play in the third quarter. Those are things we just don't know yet when it comes to Dow Loggins, which is the big question mark that hovers over the offense. We're hearing a lot of really cool stuff, right? But we really don't know it because we haven't seen it, and that also comes into play on how a lot of these guys will improve.
Yeah, there's no doubt. I mean, the measuring stick, it's an interesting first game for South Carolina in that I think it's a true measuring stick. Like last year, Georgia State, South Carolina kind of scuffled their way through. They ended up winning by 21 points, but not as much of a measuring stick in terms of what truly are you. The year before that, Eastern Illinois, God bless them, terrible team. Just not good. Didn't know what you had.
Really nice coach, though.
Really nice coach. Love him. He came on our show, so we're a big fan. But now this is a measuring stick game for North Carolina and South Carolina. Both teams are going to leave this game, win or loss, and they're going to be able to say, okay, here's how we feel. We don't feel good about this. We do feel good about this. Hopefully for South Carolina, you win and you feel better about more things than not. But, it's kind of that tension between you turn the ball over a bunch in camp. Is it because our defense is really good, or is it because our offense is not, turning the ball over too much? The turnovers overall have been cut down this year. I tend to think that's a better thing for this team overall. I think that's more of a function of probably the offense improving and becoming more efficient. But if you run the ball well, if you move the ball well in practice, now you're concerned about your defense. You don't truly know how those things are going to match up until you play a non-Gamecock opponent.
And speaking of, nice little lead-in by you, we will hear from Mac Brown. Mac Brown's got some thoughts on playing a upper-level type opponent in your first game. So we'll hear from the old North Carolina football coach in our next segment and kind of discuss a little bit more about what's coming up for Game 1, September 2nd in Charlotte for the Gamecocks. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Terry Ford hanging in for Tyler. Wes and Chris are here. Kendra's here. Josh is here. They're setting up for lunch and getting the taps ready. Opening, I believe, at noon today here at Steel Hands. We'll be here all day long until 6 p.m. on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
Well, I know you're thinking a lot about the first game, right? You're probably going up to Charlotte. You're going to watch the game against the Tar Heels, so it's exciting times. You're probably not sitting around thinking a lot about insurance, but I encourage you, think a little bit about your insurance. Make sure that you have great coverage and make sure you have that great coverage at the best possible price. If you need someone to help you through that process, do just like my family did. Call up our friend Amy Mason Cup State Farm. She can switch you over to State Farm so you can start saving today. She can help you get personalized quotes to meet your needs and help you save. She can bundle all your policies: home, auto, business, boat, renters, life, and so much more, whatever your needs are. She and the team at State Farm have you covered. Amy Mason Cup's a South Carolina native and a local agent. Give her a call, 803-772-5554. Let her help your family just like she helped mine. Her office, 612 St. Andrews Road, Suite 4 in Columbia. The website is amymasoncup.com. Give her a call, help her, or let her help you switch and save with great insurance at a great price. 803-772-5554. Like a good neighbor, State Farm is there.
We'll hear from Mac Brown, North Carolina head football coach, next on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour on 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head. On your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Terry Ford hanging in for Tyler. Chris is here. Wes is here. Kendra's here. Josh is here. You're like, okay, where are you? Steel Hands. We will be here all day, broadcasting live 107.5 The Game, getting you ready for the Gamecock Central kickoff party for the 2023 football season. They'll be coming up tomorrow all day here at Steel Hands. Starts early. There's a few VIP tickets left. Now, are you guys doing... There's a few left. So, I mean, you could hold a couple and have people, like, wrestle for them or something like that. Like
no,
right
we
here.
Don't encourage violence.
Don't encourage violence?
No. And
I'm from Baltimore. We encourage violence. It's a little different vibe.
And I'm serious. This isn't a sales ploy. Like, even since when we first got out here, we started at 9 out here today. There are even fewer VIP tickets now because we've had a couple other people jump in to get their family some tickets. So
what does one get when they get a VIP ticket?
Well, I think probably the coolest thing, this was a big hit. We started, this is the third annual, but last year was the first year that we had some current South Carolina players be able to come out and mingle with the people and then talk with them, take pictures, etc. And so that was massively popular, and we're bringing that back again this year. We've got a whole bunch of football players out here starting at about 2 o'clock. There is a scrimmage tomorrow, but we've been blessed to be able to get them out here. Wes, you've got the list in front of you.
Yeah, that's the biggest part. You can meet and greet with Juice Wells, the carry-on joiner, Nick Gargiulo, Lenora Sellers, Nick Harbor, Debo Williams, DQ Smith, Nick Ebenworry, and Mitch Jeter.
And there might be some other additions to that, even to that impressive list.
Yeah, so that's the best part. You're also going to get some free drinks from Steel Hands, some free drinks from the cocktail area from Gamecock Bourbon Society. You're going to get some food from both Firehouse Subs and from Steel Hands, free Gamecock Central hat, chance to win some other prizes. So, yeah, lots of great stuff.
Yeah, very nice. And obviously, there's very few of these tickets left, so jump on it. Like I said, we'll be here up until 6. All right, so as we progress getting closer to this game with North Carolina, heard a lot from Mac Brown. He's really been talking a ton about Tez Walker, who they were hoping would come from Kent State and be a big play wide receiver, but there's an eligibility issue. I know you guys have talked about that ad nauseum on the show. Here's Mac Brown, though, talking about something similar to what you dudes brought up a little while ago. Not playing East Western North Carolina Truckers Academy, but playing a real game against a top-level team. Here's Tar Heel coach Mac Brown.
I think that's what you heard. What I said was you never know how good you're going to be because you're playing against each other. We don't have preseason games. We've got enough NFL guys on our staff right now that they said it's such a great advantage when you can go play some guys against other guys. You don't have to game plan, but at least you can see how they're going to respond. We can't tell how Amari Campbell's going to respond. He's never played in a college football game. I remember when I got here, we played Chaz Surratt in his first game ever at linebacker against South Carolina, and we didn't have enough people to tackle him. We had a thud in practice. He had never tackled in a game. And I remember he missed a running back in the third play, and Jay Bateman screamed at him. I said, he missed a tackle. I said, he's never had a tackle. I mean, God, man, give it up. And then Storm Duck goes in as a freshman at corner because somebody got knocked out, had a concussion, and Storm, who got turned down by South Carolina, went out and played the whole corner against South Carolina. So what you do is you know, everybody can say they think they know who their team is. If you're playing somebody that you're going to beat, you pretty much know who they are because it's easy. If you're playing a great team like South Carolina, you have no idea how they're going to respond until you get out there.
Okay, so I read the cut wrong. I thought it was going to say something else, but instead it was Mac Brown kind of talking about what Shane Beamer brings up is the lack of preseason game against someone besides yourself, so you really don't know how your guys are going to react because they're just playing against your other guys. So forget the whole thing I was thinking about because the cut didn't match. So anyway, but going to that point of, hey, you know, being able to play against someone else, college football, even more than college basketball, there's just this sometimes evolution or taking, getting, evolving to another level or bringing in new ideas because they make sense. Good luck sometimes, right? It's almost like, well, we did that back in 1972. Well, it's 2023. It just feels like, shouldn't this evolve to where even if the NCAA would allow you to scrimmage, because the NFL now, the big thing is organized scrimmages and practices against teams, and coaches like those more than preseason games because you can set up scenarios and you can kind of control that. How about just a compromise where you can have an organized practice with another program to at least see your guys against other guys that aren't your guys?
Yeah, I mean, I don't know that any coach is going to disagree with that idea at this point. I mean, I don't see the downside to being able to go out there and have a joint practice with a school that you don't play, within 5 years or something. Like there's no downside. You learn a lot about your team. Is it the same as playing a game? Even then, no. But I think it gives you a much better idea at kind of knowing what you have with your guys. Now, I do think here's the interesting thing about season openers, especially when you play kind of a benchmark game like South Carolina has with North Carolina, is this player that you're counting on to go out there and make plays, he's maybe made plays all through camp, and we have an idea. It's almost like a video game. Well, oh, this guy was a 4-star guy. He's highly rated. This is how talented he is. We cannot account for the fact that Jimmy has never played in front of 80,000 people before. And, I mean, just sit there and think for a second. If you're watching the game, what if you were the one running out there performing when everybody on Twitter, everybody yelling at their TV is telling you how bad you are at what you do? And so that's when you kind of get into the whole the man in the arena. Like it is not easy to go perform on ESPN, thinking about all the cameras, thinking about all the scrutiny. And when you're a young player, it's hard to get past that. And then confidence. Do you make that first play that boosts your confidence? Do you miss that first tackle that Mac Brown's talking about and put your head down and start, I'm shying away next time? So those are the things that I'm sure coaches probably don't sleep at all week one because you're just is that guy ready? Is that guy ready? Is that guy ready?
Salty Mac Brown.
Yeah, how about that? That's
how
not
about
what I
throwing in
said.
the little storm duck?
Yeah, he threw in the little.
The storm duck's not even there anymore.
South Carolina turned him down, by the way.
Man, I love that.
But still, he's trying to. Mac Brown is kind of a. He's pretty good with the media and everything, and understanding how to use it.
Oh, absolutely.
Pretty good with recruiting too.
Pretty good in recruiting, and that's one reason why he thinks about recruiting and he thinks about social media a lot nowadays. But I think he's having a hard time now. He's in a dilemma because he's been using the everybody's picking South Carolina thing. It's like, actually, Mac, no.
No,
most people
you're
are
favored.
You're favored, and that line's moving more towards your favor. So he's like, what do I do now?
You know the funny thing about Mac Brown, too? What Mac Brown does, and you see it in North Carolina the second time around, that's why he worked at Texas. He's a great politician. He's a great recruiter. He knows how to use the media, and there was obviously no social media like it is now. But Mac Brown is a master manipulator of everyone around him. And that's why he's the guy that works so well at Texas, because those people thought they were working him. No, he was working them. And that's what made Mac Brown, and he does it with a smile on his face, and he gives you a little hug or a little elbow or something and walks away going, yeah, I got that dude. Mac's a smart guy, man. There's no doubt about it, to your point. Mac knows what's up.
And I think that's why he was able to survive some of that as long as he did.
Yeah, absolutely.
Instead of Nick Saban swooping into Texas, as was talked about back then, he was able to survive a little longer because he could work the room.
Oh, he worked the room fantastic. And you see what he's done twice now at North Carolina.
Yep.
And really not a whole lot went right in between Mac's trips to North Carolina. All right, we'll come back, final segment of the show here on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour as we continue discussing South Carolina moving forward as they're getting ready for that September 2nd game against North Carolina. I will ask you, dudes, one thing is, and you brought this up, and really in the big picture it doesn't matter, but since it's talking season, we'll see if it does matter. We see where South Carolina is being perceived by national media and by even SEC media. Let's get into a little bit of that next, going into Shane Beamer's third year. Final segment of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour as we hang till noon, then the halftime show on 107.5 The Game from Steel Hands.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. 107.5 The Game.
Guys, if you are wanting to buy a new home, maybe you're wanting to sell your home and you're looking at the headlines and you are scared about what the housing market, this roller coaster is, you're going to need somebody to help you navigate that. And what you need to do is call my friend Kendall Walsh. She helped me and my wife this time last year, literally a year ago. We were buying a house. She helped us through the entire process, every single step of the way. She can do the same for you. Give her a call or just shoot her a text. It's at 803-414-3590. Give her a follow on Instagram. That's at Work with Walsh. She's with Better Homes and Gardens Real Estate Medley here in Columbia. And I know everybody's busy. You're busy with work. You're busy watching football on Saturday. You don't want to deal with all the day-to-day, all the little sign this, sign that. This person wants to see the house. That person wants to see the house. Hire Kendall. She will handle every single step of the way for you and make it incredibly smooth as well. Again, that's Kendall Walsh. Give her a call. Shoot her a text. 803-414-3590.
All right, we'll get back in here. Final segment of the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour from Steel Hands. Just kind of look at the national perception of Shane Beamer's program going into year 3 next on the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game.
It's the Gamecock Central Takeover Hour. Presented by Firehouse Subs. Founded by firemen with Chris Clark, Wes Mitchell, and Tyler Head on your home of the Gamecocks. 107.5 The Game.
Live from Steel Hands in Cayce. Gamecock Central Takeover Hour, 107.5 The Game. We'll be here all day. I mean, Wes and Chris, well, are you guys hanging all day, right? You're staying till 6, right? On the air?
I'm going to hang and get some lunch.
About to get some food.
It's going to be outstanding.
Now, Wes will come back and sit in an hour with Tyler. Tyler's filling in for Heath today, 3 to 6 here at Steel Hands on Game Time. And Chris, you'll call and say hey to him, right? Just do that. Go, hey, Tyler, I want to say hi, and just to hang up.
Well, I volunteered to do more than one segment via phone. I'll be traveling a little bit, and volunteered to do more than one segment. And Tyler said, you know what, I'm good. One's fine. I've had enough.
So basically, he ghosted you on a second segment.
Chris, is what he said.
And I don't blame him. But no, in seriousness, he has some other guests.
Yeah, he has some other stuff going on. Yeah, absolutely. All right, so the one thing, I guess, in this last segment, just a tweak on real quick is, it's very interesting to me. And I'm going to talk more in the halftime show about Billy Connolly's SP Plus analytic rankings. Has South Carolina 33rd, and really, and you guys hit it. it feels like the computer believes more in the South Carolina offense than the South Carolina defense, or special teams is number 2 in the country in the analytic ranking. And I was surprised, though, when I saw some of the other schools ahead in the computer rankings. And I know so much goes into it of some perception of who you have coming in, who you have going out. There's some unknown quantity things that Billy Connolly puts in, to be fair. But seeing like Florida, for an example, or some other, even Mississippi State, and I know that they have Will Rogers coming back, but I was just like, it was interesting to me, but sitting at 11th in the SEC by the computer is one thing. But a lot of, I've seen some people pick South Carolina second in the East, thinking they could be the team in that mosh pit, and some folks who don't believe in Tennessee. And I've seen some people put South Carolina behind even Florida. It's been all over the place. I think but the one thing the Shane Beamer program has done the first 2 years, and you guys talked about it earlier, it's beaten those projections, like computer projections, the FIP, twice now. The win totals have been better. So I know we really don't care. We shouldn't care. But just your thoughts about where the perception of the program seems to be nationally at this point.
Well, and I think now analytics are they're more and more a part of the mainstream conversation nationally too. So I think you look at the reason his analytics are so down on Carolina's defense. You look, both their linebackers from last year are gone. Jordan Birch is gone. Gilbert Edmond is gone. Cam Smith's gone. Darius Rush is gone. So it's probably, the computers are probably saying all that defensive production is out the window. Who's going to replace it? And so I think that's part of it. I do think just from the actual media, like the humans involved, they see the East right now as it's Georgia, and then it's Georgia at the top, it's Vandy at the bottom, and then I can make a case for you for kind of almost anybody. Now, there's degrees to it. A lot of people are down on Florida. I don't think a ton of people are big on Missouri. Chris is always down on Florida.
That's a personal thing. Yeah, something happened in Florida when he was a young guy, and he just can't get over it.
Yeah. So, but seriously, you can kind of make that case but it's like the two guys that texted you earlier, and one was so high on South Carolina, and one was so low. You can make that case on either side. So the games, I think, are going to determine the order. But honestly, if I said, hey, this is my take on how the East is going to go, and I started with Georgia 1, and I put Vandy last, and then I just shook the other ones up and just put out a random order, nobody would be able to say the order was insane.
Like you've lost your mind. Yeah,
somebody would say it, but they wouldn't have a good argument.
But I like when people will argue both sides and say, well, it's this, and it's not even close. It's well, you both say, both sides of the argument say it's not even. Yeah. But seriously, maybe you'd slide Florida and Missouri down a little bit, but as far, if you had Tennessee second, nobody's batting an eye. If you had South Carolina second, they may bat an eye, but they're not going to be like, oh, that's insane. Right. So, there could be any order to that middle group.
Well, because to your point, I mean, there are folks who think Tennessee's turned the corner, and then there's people like me who go, how about another year? Give me another few years of being this. And then you have Joe Milton, who's lost the starting job twice at 2 different places, including Tennessee. And defensively, they've had. So the people that think Tennessee is locked in at second, no, we can sit here and make a case. No, they're not. So to your point, it's going to be a fun SEC this year, it feels like. Fellas, always good hanging out with you. I know you guys are going to stay and eat. And what are you buying me?
I think Josh is handling.
Josh is going to handle that.
I think Josh is buying for all of us.
Okay, good. Let's go. I
think we'll go with that. We'll order and say it's on that guy.
Yep.
And we'll just
eat and continue planning this party.
And do it like we used to do where I grew up in Baltimore. You go to the bathroom, climb out the side window. You're all good.
That's the plan,
You're
I guess.
All good. Oh, God. We're hanging out here at Steel Hands all day long. We'll do the halftime show next till 3, then game time 3 to 6, as we get you ready for the Gamecock Central football kickoff party tomorrow with Gamecock Central here at Steel Hands. Halftime show is next on 107.5 The Game.